Horse and buggy, epic sword fights, cassette players. What do all these have in common? Well, they are things that were once ubiquitous and now are kind of obsolete. We readily accept that common things from the distant past are no longer part of our current lives. Think the togas of ancient Rome.
You guys up for a toga party? Toga! Toga!
Or the widespread dysentery of the Oregon Trail. But many everyday items and practices from as recently as the 1970s, if 50 years can still be considered recent, have completely fallen by the wayside. I'm your host, Nostalgic Nick, and today we're examining 9 things from the 1970s that just aren't around anymore. If you dig the episode, please smash the thumbs up icon and subscribe to the channel for more nostalgia. But now, let's get to these obsolete fossils. Ditto machines. One of the absolute joys of grade school was, of course, the smell of a freshly printed dittoed copy. Before the days of laser printers and photocopiers spitting out nearly endless duplicates, small organizations like churches and schools were forced to rely on ditto machines to get more than one copy of newsletters, schoolwork, etc., otherwise referred to as spirit duplicators. And similar to the mimeograph, these ditto machines worked by forcing a special ink through a stencil, and it appeared on the paper with a slightly magical light bluish purple hue, and what can only be described as the aroma of the gods. As writer Bill Bryson writes in his memoir, quote, 2 deep drafts of a freshly run of ditto worksheet, and I would be the education system's willing slave for up to 7 hours. So what produces that enticing nostalgic odor? Well, the smell came from the duplicating fluid, which was a mix of methanol and isopropanol. Good. Secondhand smoke everywhere. Does anyone else remember the smog-choked horrors that bars, restaurants, and yes, even airplanes used to be?
If this should happen, immediately extinguish all cigarettes.
Check out our golden era of flying video for more secrets from the skies. Because before national, state, and local bans on smoking indoors in public places began to be enacted, nearly every trip out of your house was filled with a double lungful of potential cancer. Even by the 80s and 90s, the solution was to divide places like restaurants into smoking and non-smoking sections. Because we all know that 15-foot divide in IHOP is really saving lives. Yum! Who doesn't love their pancakes with a nice tobacco patina? Fortunately today, smoking is banned inside and public places outright in a majority of states and major cities, making the world a healthier and much better smelling place. Hitchhiking. Since the very invention of cars, people have been sticking out their thumbs and bumming rides. Hitchhiking used to be a way of life in the US. From Clark Gable teaching thumb techniques in It Happened One Night.
Do you mind if I try?
You? Don't make me laugh.
To Jack Kerouac touring the country in On the Road. Hitchhiking was seen as a safe and effective means to get around. But then, starting in the 1970s, a switch flipped. And today, I can't imagine many parents would relish their kids jumping in a stranger's car.
I got a batch of vintage comic books here. Fantastic array of books. Slide that door open, take a peek. A little rough, give it a tug.
Sensationalized accounts of violence probably haven't helped. Just look at the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. No one who has ever seen that movie has ever picked up a hitchhiker. Or maybe it's because of cheaper airfare, or the fact that so many more people do have cars nowadays. Whatever the reason, hitchhiking, once ubiquitous in America, has since fallen by the roadside since the 1970s. Original ideas in Hollywood. Hollywood used to be rife with original ideas.
Do, I'll throttle you, I understand.
And not just small indie films, but massive blockbusters. Take the 70s, which, all apologies to the supposed golden age of cinema, is definitely the best decade for film. In those 10 years, out of the top 20 grossing films, only one of them is a sequel. Instead, the list is dominated by classics like Star Wars, The Godfather, and yes, Smokey and the Bandit. All of them new ideas to Hollywood. Now compare that to the 2010s, in which 13 of the top 20 belong to just 4 franchises: Marvel, Star Wars, Jurassic Park, and The Fast and the Furious. And that just makes me furious. On top of that, 6 of the remaining 20 are remakes or sequels, which means, drumroll please, Frozen was the only original movie to be in the top 20 most popular during the decade. Woof, Hollywood, let it go already with these big franchises. Let it go, let it go. Oh, that's gonna be stuck in my head forever. Gerber singles. And now for something we should all be eternally grateful is a relic consigned to the past. Because Gerber singles are one of the most horrifying things to ever come out of the 1970s. And for those of you who have successfully blocked them from your mind, let me remind you. Some foolish, awful, repugnant person at Gerber decided that what college kids, young people on their own, and I assume single dads needed was single-serving grown-up food made like baby food, all mashed up in jars. Let that sink in like the mush in the jars, coming in such delightful flavors as Mediterranean vegetable, vague, blueberry delight, suspicious, and beef burgundy, dry heave. These glass shrines to all that is unholy in the culinary world were obviously a spectacular failure, and the modern world was spared the horrors of Gerber's singles.
These people! We gotta stop them!
Dangerous playgrounds. Alright, I'll just come out and say it. Playgrounds back in the 70s were way better than the ones today. I don't care that the massive wooden castles were filled with splinters waiting to pierce unsuspecting children, or that the sheet metal slides were as close as we're ever gonna come on Earth to the surface of the sun. Or even that the ubiquitous sand covering the ground, I assume to soak up all the blood from nicks and scrapes, would worm its way into every crack and crevice of your body. Those tall, dangerous damn things were just infinitely more fun to traipse around on than today's sterile plastic monstrosities that oftentimes aren't even 2 stories tall. I mean, the kids are alright, just give them a chance to have some daring, dangerous fun. TV rabbit ears and test patterns. If you told a kid today that in order to watch TV you had to get up every 20 or so minutes to rearrange a pair of incredibly flimsy metal rods named after the appendages on top of a Bugs Bunny head, they would probably give you a look of disbelief, followed by pure pity. But rabbit ear antennas were all too real, and don't even bother messing with them in the middle of the night, because there's going to be nothing on TV but the test pattern. Yeah, cue the blank stares from anyone under the age of 40. That's right, folks. There didn't used to be TV in the middle of the night. Nothing on but a test pattern that allowed engineers to do nerd stuff, calibrate and produce a viable picture. Which leads us to our next topic, because cartoons only on Saturday mornings. Kids these days have no idea how incredibly sacred Saturday mornings used to be. Jumping out of bed, racing down the stairs to plop yourself in front of the TV for 3 to 4 hours. A period of time when nothing bar Armageddon itself could pull you away from the screen. Because this was the only time of the week when you could disappear into the fantasy world of cartoons. There was no Cartoon Network, or any one of a myriad of other channels nowadays, blasting animated wonderlands into your home at pretty much all hours. There was no Hulu with every episode of The Simpsons just a few clicks away. There was just you, your encroaching siblings, your couch, and a few blessed hours of bliss. Time and temperature phone numbers. Imagine this, there you are walking down the street in 1972. Maybe you forgot your watch at home. Maybe you just forgot to wind it that day. How are you going to know whether you're running late for your meeting? Maybe it's also hotter than the devil's backside and you want to confirm your suspicions of it being over 100. But how? The answer to both of those questions is walk to the nearest payphone. Yes, another relic of the past. Pop in your 20 cents and call the local time and temp phone number. Did you know that despite smartphones making these informative phone numbers completely obsolete, the US Naval Observatory still maintains an operating timeline? No, I'm serious. Just call this number, 202-762-1401, for a good time. And there they are. Some of the many things that populated people's lives in the 1970s that today are no more. So how many of these things rang a bell for you? Do you remember the Ditto smell? Or those incredible dangerous playgrounds? What was your favorite Saturday morning cartoon? What thing from the 70s did we miss? Get in the comments and tell me your memories. If you enjoyed our throwback, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more. But from all of us here at Do You Remember, we want to thank you for watching.